Hello, and welcome to the Friday Night Author Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and during the next half hour, we'll be speaking with several very talented authors about their newly released books, what their inspiration was for creating their unique stories, and why it would be a great book to read and share with your friends and family. Now on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, a very interesting book, I think, going to help managers get the most out of their workplace, especially with the different generational gaps we have in this day and age, all working together. The book is called Managing the Four Different Generations in the Workplace Effectively, Efficiently, and Successfully by author Dr. Larry Price from Fulton Books. Larry, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell everybody a little bit about your book.
This is the first time in the history of the workplace where we have the four different and unique generations coming together, and motivating these different generations appropriately could decide the success and failure of companies.
Now, what inspired you to write this? What kind of made you decide that this was the topic you were going to tackle?
Based on my personal observations, in the workplace, I saw a lot of the collisions and conflicts between the different generations, being that one generation not understanding the beliefs and norms and culture and behavior of the other generations. There was a lot of difficulty in getting things done. So I believe that if each generation had an understanding of their different beliefs and behavior, that this would aid them in coming together to work efficiently and effectively in the workplace, therefore increasing the company's bottom line.
Without giving away too much, because we want people to read the book, but what do you think would be a good starting point to get the understanding between the generations? Where do you think that starts?
Again, they need to understand the differences of each other. Like, for example, traditional, they believe in respect for authority, honor, and duty. They believe in following the rules. The baby boomers had the political conscience and attitude of we will change the world. The advances in technology have profoundly formed the aspects of Generation X's lives and how they had to make the transition from the analog past to the digital future. Millennium, the most tech-savvy of the generations, which give them an amazing amount of information instantaneously through internet and social medias. They are the most computer-literate generation. Their computer literacy and proficiency are unmatched. Whenever passing the baton or torches takes place, it will always take resilience, courage, and commitment to keep moving forward. Okay, nobody's suggesting that conflicts can be eliminated from the human interaction between the different generations in the workplace. However, there are opportunities to manage these conflicts so that companies can become successful in increasing their bottom line. So each generation, when they understand how the other generation operates, are more inclined to come together and to accomplish the goals and the objectives of the company, by working together, realizing that there's no right or wrong generation. It's just different.
Now, how was it working with Fulton Books to make this book a reality and get it published?
It's very important, working with Fulton. They steered me from day one through the process of everything that it would take to bring the book to publication. And without them, I don't believe that I would have been able to do this. So they were a major partner in making my book a reality. And
if you were going to say there's one overlying message, the most important message that you hope people get from this, what would you say that would be?
And that is to realize that in the four generations in the workplace, there are challenges and conflicts for managers and supervisors who must deal with competing priorities, agendas, and values of the employees. And having, read this book and utilizing some of its theories and application can significantly reduce this type of generation clash, making them more efficient and effective and productive for the company.
I think this book is going to be an excellent resource. The book is called Managing the Four Different Generations in the Workplace Effectively, Efficiently, and Successfully by author Dr. Larry Price from Fulton Books. You can get your copy today at Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon.com, just a few of the online sources, as well as brick-and-mortar stores. And Larry, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Of course, we all go through tough times and troubles throughout our life, and to be able to get through that, it's really something that we need to start teaching kids at a young age, and I think this book is going to do just exactly that. The book is called The Crooked Tree by author Emma Forsyth by Fulton Books. Emma, thank you for being on the show.
Pleased to be here.
Now, tell everybody a little bit about this book you've written.
Well, as a therapist, I've had children for a number of years, and kids, when they've been through tough times, can process a lot of whether it's grief or confusion that might go with things that happen in life. Smaller children can't process some of the bad things that happen, like parents getting a divorce or being bullied or maybe a sickness in the family. And the idea with the story is to help them realize that there is life after the bad times, that you can get through this and you can persevere and move on. And I think that that's something kids need to learn at an early age. They need to learn that they're stronger than they think they are.
Now, what kind of inspired you to write this book? Where did that all begin?
Well, some of the kids that I've worked with have been through horrendous difficulties, things that you can't even begin to imagine, and they've been through it at an early age. And when I looked at what was available, there are books in terms of therapists or counselors working with children with problems, but there aren't too many books that are actually down on the kids' level for them to help them to persevere through the tough times. And so that I saw that there was a need there, and that's why I put the book together.
I've got to imagine that, you see so many adults today that really have a hard time coping with difficult times in life and whatnot. And you got to imagine if maybe they would have had something instilled in them at an early age. Did that kind of go into your thought process as well?
Yes,
really building these kids for the future?
Absolutely. And a lot of times parents, even really good parents, kind of don't realize how tough kids can have it. Kids function in two worlds. They function in the world of kids and in the world of home. And if there's something wrong in one of those two aspects of their life, it's like 50% of their life is going bad, whether it's being bullied at school or whether it's, something going on within the family. If they have someone to talk to, it's great, but a lot of times kids don't. And I think that there are a lot of adults that could have been helped by this. In fact, I read the book to a friend of mine, and she had been through a difficult childhood. The first thing she said was, there was never anybody to talk to. And I kind of think that this book can sort of serve the purpose that, there's other people that have been through tough times. You can get through this. So there are a lot of circumstances that are really difficult for kids. So by putting it in story form, they can see that someone else has been through tough times, persevered, and has made it out stronger and better. And I'm hoping that's what the book does.
Now, how was it working with Fulton Books to have this book published and to be able to have it out there to really help kids?
Fulton Books was absolutely terrific. Andrew was my contact person, and they were very receptive to any changes I wanted, any changes in the illustrations that I wanted. They were an excellent company to work with.
Now, when people read The Crooked Tree, whether it's kids reading it or parents reading it to the kids, what do you hope is the most important thing that kids especially, but anyone who reads this, what do you hope they get out of this?
Well, the idea that there are storms in life. Everybody's life is going to have them. Nobody goes through life without storms. But you kind of need to pull into yourself. You need to find strengths within yourself. And you need to value yourself. I think that's probably the most important lesson to this. Kids need to be taught to value themselves. You are an important person, and you have certain qualities that you might not realize. And I hope the book shows them that you do have a sense of value. I hope that that's really what I want people to take away from this. I
tell you what, self-worth, I think, is a great building block and a strong foundation to be able to get through the hard times, and they're going to find that in this book. The book is called The Crooked Tree by author Emma Forsyth. You can pick your copy up today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play, and of course, published by Fulton Books. And Emma, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Now on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, a really fun book and a book that's really going to give kids a great message. The book is called A Monkey Called Doodle by author Janice Frankham from Fulton Books. Janice, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for asking me.
Now tell everybody a little bit about your book.
Well, it's about a mischievous green-eyed monkey that learns to grow up in the jungle. And each of the chapters is kind of like a little something of a lesson for Doodle. He learns how to cope with problems, and I made the characters where he can understand them, like Roar the tiger. I mean, children can relate to him, or Jaws the alligator, and Hooter the wise old owl, and his monkey friends Stormy and Rocky. They're always on his adventures with him, and it's just a book to help children cope with growing up. But it's about monkeys, and I thought, well, children like little monkeys, and they can relate to them.
Now, what inspired you to write this book? Was it did you draw things from your own childhood, or kids around you, or anything like that?
Well, I've always loved to write and draw, and I guess I got involved in it when I worked for the Texas Department of Health. During my breaks, I would write and do poems and do books and essays and all that type of stuff, but I really didn't get anything done until after I retired in 2017. So that's when I really started getting involved in writing, and I wrote my little story. I was just going to write a poem for a fan story. They had a contest of a poem, and it was a poem about jungle animals, and I thought, well, I'll do monkeys. And then all of a sudden, I thought, hey, I'll write a story about it. And I started writing, and I couldn't stop until I had so many chapters. I had to make 4 books out of it, and this is the first one.
So there's going to be more to come about Doodle and his friends?
Yes.
Excellent. How was it working with Fulton Books to make this book a reality, so you can spread this great message to kids?
It was great. I'm a new writer, so a lot of little things that I didn't realize, but they were great. They worked real well with me.
Now, who do you think is going to be kind of like the target audience? What age range for kids? And do you think if adults are reading this to kids, do you think they're going to be able to enjoy it and have fun with it and maybe even learn something from it as well?
Yeah, I think because this book is for children to read and enjoy. But at the same time, Doodle shows that even when making mistakes, you can still be a good little monkey. And although this is a book with lessons, it's also filled with exciting adventures. And Doodle is compared to a typical 5 to 7-year-old child when he has adventures and does things wrong. But because he has a loving mother and dad, he learns from his mistakes. And I think it'll help mothers and, help them to teach their children, a few things. And it's not just a lesson book, but he does have adventures, and he teaches them how to be responsible and how to own that egos are not as important as friends are, and different things like this that I think would be good for a child and parents.
And if you could say that there was one overall message that you hope kids get from this book, what do you hope that would be?
Well, I hope they get enjoyment, and I hope that they can relate to the little animal, and to, like I say, I hope that it can help parents and to realize that children, they need to be taught right from wrong, and they want it. And I think that's the way with Doodle. He's a mischievous little monkey, but and he does things that's wrong, but he loves people, and he loves the jungle animals, and they all love him, and he wants to do good. And I think that's what this book will bring forth, that, that children can have a desire to want to be good little children.
This seems like a fun book that, kids are going to love it. I think parents are going to love reading to their kids, and I think everyone's going to learn a lot from it. The book is called A Monkey Called Doodle by author Janice Frankham. You can get it from Fulton Books online at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play, online, or at brick-and-mortar stores. And Janice, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for asking me.
Up next on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, an interesting book that, I say I'm excited to find out about more books all the time, but this one really has piqued my curiosity because it's about a character in U.S. history that you may or may not have heard of, but I'd like to find out more. The book is called The World of Edwin Smith, The Long-Bearded Man by author Burge Carmon Smith from Fulton Books. Burge, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Now, tell everybody a bit about this book.
Well, this book's about my great-grand-uncle Edwin, who went to California in 1861 for his health. And he got involved in a beard-growing contest out there. He won the beard-growing contest. He didn't find any gold, but he did get his health back. Anyway, he decided to return back to Michigan. And when he got back there, he kept the beard. And after 16 years, it grew to an enormous length. And Barnum and Bailey Circus came knocking on his door in 1881. It was the first time that Barnum and Bailey had joined all 3 circuses. Hutchinson's were in there too. And they formed this huge circus and kept adding to it. And they were looking for people and animals and things like that. And Edwin was one of their targets. And so for that 1 year, 1881, he joined the greatest show on earth at their original tour. I also put in some history, American history in there. It deals with the time Edwin was alive. He was born in 1832. He died in 1909. And I got little Google boxes in there that deals with each year of his life and maybe some historical event or invention that was going on during that time.
Now, what made you decide that you were going to tell his story? What inspired that?
Well, he's a blood relative, and we knew that he had this beard. We also knew he traveled with a circus, and that was about it. So I thought, I sure would like to know a little bit more about him, and he's not easy to find a lot of information on, but between the different obituaries and a couple articles and that were written about him and at various times and places and some pictures and so on, he started to come to life.
And how was it working with Fulton Books to see this book come to life?
Fulton Books were good. They helped me out a great deal, and they were very patient with me, and it worked out real well. I enjoyed and I thought they did a great job with the artwork and developing the book itself.
Who do you think is going to be kind of like the target reader? Who do you think is going to enjoy this book the most?
Oh, well, it's interesting you ask, because I do a lot of substitute teaching, and I'm at the age now where I'd rather do the younger kids, the elementary, grades 3 through 5. And I tell this story of Edwin, and they love it. And right now I've got several of these school districts, some of their libraries, ordering the book for their library so the kids can read it, and I got some kids ordering it too. So that's one target, but the other target is older people, people that, a lot of retired folks, and some of them very old, people that remember going to the circus, remember coming down the roads of their cities, with these huge parades and everything. And I'm finding that that's the span, the young people and the older people.
If you could say there was a message that you hope people get from reading this, what would you hope that message would be?
Well, I hope to get a feel for the 19th century and for the way that people lived at that time, the things that helped change America, too. The history of it, I guess, of America and of the people that lived in it.
Edwin Smith as such a unique character. I think this is a book that a lot of people are going to really enjoy, and I encourage everyone to pick up a copy. The book is called The World of Edwin Smith, the Long-Bearded Man, by author Burge Carmon Smith from Fulton Books. You can get your copy today, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play, online at the brick-and-mortar stores. And Burge, thank you for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed by you. Thank you a great deal.
Now on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, a book I'm really excited to talk about because I think this is going to be a great one for kids. The book is called Sweet Childhood Poetry by author Aida Levani from Fulton Books. Aida, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting.
Now tell everybody a little bit about this book you've written and these poems.
I should tell you first that I did not grow up in here. I was born in Armenia, and over there we learned poetry. We were exposed to poetry a lot. And when I came to America and my children went to school, I noticed that they don't study poems at that age in elementary school, and it was very sad because it was very enjoyable for me, and I thought it's supposed to be very enjoyable for every child too, but it was very sad to hear remarks like, I hate poetry, and I just couldn't understand why children hate poetry. But I noticed that most of the poems were very symbolic, difficult to read, and a lot of poems were just nonsense poems, and I didn't see poems that I was used to. So I decided to write them myself. And they turned out pretty well, actually. I got a lot of compliments. I showed them to English teachers and professors of English just to see how good they are. And they all complimented me and insisted that they should be published. So this is how my book was born.
Now, what kind of inspired some of the poems that you had written? Was it, things that happened in your own life or things around you?
Yeah, actually, most of them are about the things around me, and some of them are things that children usually imagine. Like there is a poem about a magical sailboat that the child tells the sailboat to take him around the world and show these beautiful places and where the birds fly during winter. Most of the poems are educational, humorous, fun, adventurous. The poems are good conversation pieces for adults who read these poems to children. After reading the poem, they can converse and expand on around the subject. Also have a lot of poems where it makes the child to notice the nature around us, notice the beauty of the nature. So that is important too, because we want to develop in our children feelings. I really dislike the fact that a lot of parents give these iPhones to their children and occupy their time like that. Children should not be brought up as robots. They should be occupied with things that make them good human beings. So that was the intention of writing this type of poetry. And they're also beautifully illustrated. That's very important too. The illustrations are done by an artist who worked for Warner Brothers, and they're beautiful.
And when people read this, whether it's kids reading this or even parents or grandparents reading these poems to kids, what do you hope is the most important message they get? Or what do you hope that kids gain from reading these poems?
Well, first of all, they don't hate poetry anymore. They enjoy the book very much. And the message is to educate children by reading to them nice things, positive things, not nonsense things.
Well, I think this is going to be a fantastic book for kids of all ages. The book is called Sweet Childhood Poetry by author Aida Levani from Fulton Books. You can get your copy today at Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play, just a few of the online sources, as well as the brick and mortar stores. And Aida, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you too very much.